You guys are used to seeing this, right? But what a lot of you don't know is that this is it. Because if I pan the camera left and right, you'll see where I really am. It's an attic, and not a good-looking attic. It's an attic, full of stuff. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you how I built this relatively cheap YouTube studio setup. Now, instead of just giving you a tour, I'll also explain the thinking process behind it, because it's not all random. Let's break it down. Let's start with the space itself, and you don't need much. You could actually do with a lot less than this, but there is a but, because I specifically wanted that blurred out background, and if you also want a blurred out background, you need to make sure that you have distance between you and the background. What you also need is a fast lens. Shoot at 3.5 at a maximum, but better is 2.8, maybe even 1.8, depending on how much distance there is between you and the background. If you're against the wall, it's almost impossible to get this look. I think I have around 10 feet behind me and then 3 feet in front of me to the camera. I shoot everything at f2, so there you go. And for the actual decoration of the background, it's all up to you. I didn't buy anything. I worked with what I could find here in the attic and what I already had. So let's take a look what we have here. There's this coffee table that we already had. Then this super old record player and amplifier. Now I have to say though, this looks pretty cool. I was lucky that it was already here in the attic. Then I also put a couch here in front of the wall to break up that big white space a little bit. And the great thing is that all of this doesn't have to be brand new. It's in the background and no one will notice if it's a brand new couch or an old beat up couch. Then there is this drain pipe that was dark gray. I just bought a can of white spray paint. Boom. And over here some glass shelves with some of my lenses and other stuff. And then here, this is the table where I sit most of the time. Also super old, I found it here in the attic. So you don't need to buy anything to build a nice looking background. If you really can't find anything, maybe go to a secondhand store and buy some things for a few bucks. Be creative, it's all about improvising. There are so many possibilities. But yeah, so the most important thing you have to remember is that if you want that depth, that blurred out background, you have to make sure that there is some distance between you and the background, the wall. Oh, and if you have a space that's literally like here, this is it, then set up your camera, frame your shot, and then build your background. It's a lot easier to make a nice composition. Also, record some test footage once you have set up something, because then you'll see things that you didn't see in real life. You know, it's not a coincidence that I'm sitting right here. I put the chair and the table here so that my head, my face, is in the middle of this blue empty space behind me. If I move a little bit to this side, then the amplifier creates a distraction behind my head. I don't like that. Maybe you think I'm going a little bit too far, right? Perfectionist? But these kind of details really make the difference. Whenever you think you have the perfect setup, check it on the big screen for those details. Okay, and now the important stuff, light. If you want the best results, then you'll have to make at least one investment, and that's right here, the key light. So I have the Godox SL60W, and it's all I need for these kind of videos. Bought it on Amazon for $135, add a little bit more for a cheap light stand and a softbox, and that's it. The softbox is very important because that's what gives you that nice soft light, and as a general rule of thumb, the softbox should be the same size as your subject. So for these kind of videos, it's like this. I bought a 120 centimeter softbox. I'll link a review to the Godox and the softbox up here somewhere. It's an awesome little setup if you don't want to spend 4 or 5 times more on an aperture light. So that's the minimum you need to invest, the key light. Really important. I think for everything, the light, the stand, and the softbox, I paid something around 220 bucks. Something like that on Amazon. You'll find everything in the description, by the way. Okay, and now the background lights, and that's where you can get really creative. At the moment, I'm going for, as you can see, all blue. Maybe it's a little bit much for some people, but I don't know, I like it. And I'm trying out a different setup every few weeks, so you might see it change once in a while. Anyway, what you need is colored lights, an RGB light. Again, I'll link a review to my favorite one up here somewhere. And these RGB lights are super useful not only for making the background blue. I use them for all kinds of stuff. So I have one in the background, making the wall blue there, and then I also like to add a little bit of blue light here, on this side of my face. I don't know, I like it. It looks a little bit futuristic, techy. But here's the thing, you don't really need an RGB light if you can't afford it or you don't want to buy one. Normally I use one here too to light this side of my face, but now I went back to my old setup. I'll show you. See, it's just a cheap white LED panel covered with some blue translucent plastic. I bought this in an arts and crafts store for, I don't know, 60 cents. And the cool thing is, this doesn't even have to be an LED panel. You could also attach this to a table lamp or any cheap light bulb. And for the plastic, you can pick any color you want. Now, there's a reason why I use blue. It's because it contrasts nicely with skin colors. If that wall would be red or yellow, the look would be totally different. Also, just a white wall looks really flat. That's why I picked blue, for a nice contrast. It also doesn't have to be powerful, guys. I know it looks very bright and blue, but the power is set at, I think, 15% brightness. That's it. I can't show it right now, but in real life, it looks a lot less blue than on camera. It's a little bit deceiving. Okay, and finally, there are two atmosphere lights. This tabletop light here that we already had, and this light box that we also already had from IKEA, I think. And that's basically it, guys. So you don't need to spend $1,000 to create a nice looking studio setup. Just improvise and be creative with what you already have. The background is super important, but the viewers won't see the details. They're not gonna be like, huh, that's a really old couch back there. They can't see it. All of that stuff is there to create texture and an atmosphere. That's it. The only investment you should do is the key light. That's really important for that nice soft light. And the lights in the background, again, you could just improvise there with what you have. A simple light bulb with a colored piece of plastic in front of it, it works fine. Let me just show you a map of the setup right now, what you're seeing here. So we have the table where I sit, the key light right here. Here's the background wall with the two atmosphere lights. Here's an RGB light making the wall blue. And here's the rim light coming from behind me. Now, I tried, and you can even make it work with just one light here in the background. If you point this light here so that it lights the wall and yourself, it works. And that's it, guys. That's the simple, relatively cheap setup that I have right now, but it works just fine. Always remember that people at home don't see everything around it. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.